Hello, everyone. Today is the 15th December of 2023, and we have our last Zoom call of this year with the beautiful people of Research. Welcome, Carrie, Trish, Austin, Jim. Welcome to
Howdy.
our conversation.
Thank you. Howdy.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here with you.
thank you very much. And I would like to start that maybe we are starting with Austin, that you would like to tell you a few back on your year, what were the personal highlights and what you wish you for the next year. We're starting like that.
Well, the biggest personal highlight, I would say, was getting to spend time with a lot of people who were here on this call in Europe over the summer. It was one of the most magical experiences, being able to go to Europe and have our Law One gathering in Prague and then a follow-up day in Berlin, thanks to you, Daniel. Um, that's both, in Ella research and in my personal life, just one of the most amazing things to go to Europe and have all these people from all these different countries, all these different cultures, all sort of convene and see how the Law of One is alive for everybody in such similar ways. People use the same words to describe their connection with the Law of One, their spiritual journeys with the Law of One that we hear, in the United States and in other English-speaking countries. It's all like the same resonance, and that connection that you feel with somebody who resonates like that is so quick and immediate. It's just such an amazing experience, and it's such an honor for us to be able to do that. So that's definitely, I'd say, the biggest highlight of this past year.
Thank you very much. I much enjoyed that one as well. I'm looking forward to next year. Maybe we go to Jim.
Well, I enjoyed being on that podcast from a distance, like I am today. I always like talking to people about the Law of One. We've had our public channeling meditations going since September, and it's really an honor and inspiring to meet so many seekers from around the country that come here and partake in our channeling. And the other thing, I guess, is that I've been my weekly and daily entering of Camelot journals, dealing with quos, channeling going back to 1986 when it first started. And I've been doing that long enough now that I'm in 1990. And it's always a joy to be able to share that information with people. Plus, as you know, Carla would always do the opening question, the group question, and then the transfer of the contact to me. And while I was channeling, she would probably ask a question or two and make some comments. And it's been really inspiring and a blessing to be able to read what she had to say then. So that's what's been happening for me.
Thank you very much. Is there any things what you're looking forward for 2024? Any wishes what you want to do in this year?
I'd like to have another great year like I've had this past year, doing the same thing I'm doing.
Great.
Nothing. Yeah.
Thank you. Then we would like to go to the family of the beans.
After you.
Well, it's kind of hard to follow up Austin and Jim, but yeah, being in Europe was one of, if not the highlights of the year. We're always just like blown away by the connections that we witness people make and reconnecting with people that we've met. It's just a joy. It's so beautiful to see. We feel, sorry, I don't mean to speak for all of us, but I think I can when I say we feel really honored to be able to witness that as part of our, 9 to 5.
Yeah, don't speak for me on that one.
Okay. Yeah, it's a true joy. Europe was so lovely. And our other events too have just been really awesome. Josh Silverman came to one. He's our little galaxy back there. Yeah. With the thumbs up. And we had one in Washington State this past October. So just really thankful for all the opportunities that we've had to meet people and connect and share experiences and learn from one another. It's been really, really, really amazing.
Thank you, Trish. Gary.
These guys get so excited by these events. I'm just like, I could take it or leave it. Yeah, the events have been highlights for me as well. Trish and I, the way we live our life, much like the way Jim lives his life, we're rather solitary creatures, and we don't have much social contact, not locally. And we're blessed with family and friends that will come visit. But so the events are islands in our year that we very much look forward to. And even if we weren't a part of LL Research, we'd still be attending because it's just so inspiring and uplifting to be with other Law of One seekers. And Europe in particular, Nico's on the call with us. He and I, after the event is done, Sunday night's one of my favorite times at events. Like all your responsibilities are met, the event is over, it's gone well, likely, and you just get to enjoy yourself and let your hair down, as the English expression goes. And Nico and I sat up on a park bench in Prague and we talked and talked and talked. It was really great. And Trish mentioned Josh was there for homecoming and his beard is somehow longer now. I'm not sure how. And we got to meet Tatiana, and Lynn again has become a family member, and Bara in Prague. And then after Prague, on our own time and budget, we went to Lagos. Well, we went to southern Portugal, where we met the Italian translator of the Law of One for the first time in person, and his lovely wife. That Italian translator is also on the call. And we gathered not only to meet each other, but because the Czech translator of the Law of One, the leader of the Czech team, I should say, was getting married to Emily. And they wanted a beautiful location for it. So we all convened in Portugal with Mauro, the Italian translator, and his wife. And we were able to witness the spiritual wedding ceremony of Vojta and Emily. And it was one of the highlights of our lives to have seen that. And Trish mentioned that we held an event on the West Coast. So in all the years back before our time, stretching back to Carla and Jim's when it was just them in Louisville, all the events have been in Louisville, or they've been and we've branched out into Asheville, North Carolina, the past few years, but we've never held an LL Research event west of Louisville before. So Trish scouted the country, spoke with 30 different venues, and found one that met our needs outside of Seattle, Washington. So we had never stepped foot on the venue before, but it looked beautiful. And we arrived there 15 minutes before the attendees started coming in. So it was something of a gamble, but it worked so well. It was a retreat event where people lodged on site and ate on site. And everybody on the call who is in Europe, I would encourage you to bother Vojta as much as you can to encourage him to find a retreat site, or Daniel or Vojta, to find a retreat space in Europe, because it's so much more intense and it's even more magical when we can spend 3.5 days together lodging and eating on site. And that worked out so well. We met so many new faces, so many people from the West Coast. And then Berlin was awesome. This was the second year we got to do this, thanks to Daniel. Daniel, the host of this call, he was able to book a hotel for our small group and fund the event and hold a free spiritual gathering in Berlin, where we met amazing seekers all over. But yeah, those have been really standout experiences for me this year, and I appreciated what Austin, Jim, and Trish had to share as well.
Thank you very much, Gary. And I got your message and the task. Actually, we discussed, Walter and me discussed something like that already, that the idea was born. but we are not getting much into it but most probably we will talk about it again and put our heads together.
If only you had 2 weeks before the end of the year with no work.
Exactly. It was very tough time. This year was a lot of catalyst and stuff.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
So this was also my personal highlights this year was the gathering in Prague and in Berlin, and come up to realize again that a lot of seekers actually just attend this events, of course, to see the people of Ella Research, but also to get the spirit of such events, which is very special and full of love. And this is also one of the reasons why I really enjoy such events. Yeah. Thank you very much that you make it possible. And for the members of the call, if you have any question regarding the law of one or also maybe personal question to the people of LA Research, feel free to write it in the chat or raise your hand. And then we can ask them. So I have also a question for Jim now regarding to the law of one. I'm still reading the law of one again and again and again. And I found something what is I never realized before. That was in session number 53.2 that Ra is mentioned with the names James Allen. Can you please speak a little bit on that?
Well, that's my name.
Mm.
And the reason I got that name was that my mom and dad both had very unusual first names. My mom was Atta, A-T-T-A, and my dad was Wilson, W-I-L-S-O-N. And there were very few people around that had names like that. So they wanted their son to have a name that was easy to pronounce and that was common. So they named me James Allen McCarty, and Jim for short.
Okay, great. I didn't know that one. I was just wondering why he's using, for me in this case, a synonym for Jim McCarthy.
Yeah. Raw usually used just the first name. They were on a first name basis with just about everybody they talked about. But for some reason, they stuck my middle name in there.
Great. Interesting. And there was another one what I found also that this was in 52.11. Ra is talking about three special disciplines. One of the discipline of the personality. Can you maybe expand a little bit on that? There was three things, also the strength of the will. Can you please a little talk about the concept?
Well, the discipline of the personality is what we're all here to do in one way or another to become more able to move forward on our spiritual journeys of being of service to others more than 51% of the time. And Ross suggested, I believe, that there was the concept of love and of wisdom and of power that would represent the fourth and the fifth and the sixth densities, that we would all work with that as the adept would move into those areas of experience in order to become more able to focus more fully and precisely on the spiritual path. So in general, it's a way of looking at how your spiritual journey is traveled. And those categories are different parts of the journey that together give you the ability to function more effectively, I guess you would say.
Okay, thank you very much, Jim. Anybody have a follow-up question from what I'm asking? Just raise your hand or ask. Otherwise, I will continuously ask my own question. I have a lot, actually. So I would like to go to Austin. Austin, you may remember that we have some speak on the publishing of the UFO stuff in US. Would you like to give us a small update what is going on at the moment in the US on that topic? And as we are only seeing what has happened in the social media, so maybe you have some better overview for us on the UFO stuff.
Sure, I'd love to. First, I'd like to reiterate that, the UFO topic
Mm.
is important, especially to me, only insofar as it's relevant, spiritually, philosophically. So when we talk about what the government's doing and all these specifics, I think it's very interesting and it is important, but I think there's something more important, whatever lesson is being learned here individually and collectively because of it, not necessarily the details. But the details are super interesting, and there's been a lot of activity in 2023 regarding government disclosure of UFOs, knowledge of UFOs. I kind of call it institutional acknowledgement of the reality of UFOs because we're going through this transformation where it's not just the government as an institution or the military as an institution, but academia is having its own kind of transformation as well, thanks to these revelations. And so essentially over the summer there was a pretty significant whistleblower. He got a lot of attention. He's still making his rounds trying to blow the whistle, and he basically is saying that the United States has a UFO crash retrieval program where they reverse engineer UFOs. And so it's a very long, complicated story. The most recent things that have happened is our Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, over the summer he had drafted a bill to attach to our defense spending bill that was a really well-crafted piece of legislation that was actually called the UAP Disclosure Act. UAP is what they call UFOs now. And so the point of that, it was such a well-crafted piece of legislation that if it had passed in its form, it would have basically made a framework for the government to disclose the reality of what they know about UFOs. And it would have done so in a very sort of like methodical way. I guess it depends on how much you trust the government to actually tell the truth about something like that, but it would have made a framework for them to actually talk about it in some way. But unfortunately, some politicians who have high stakes in the military industrial complex and defense contractors basically stripped that aspect of the bill completely. There's still some legislation passing regarding how the government can release documents and um, evidence of UFOs, but it's not nearly as well formed as it was, and it leaves a lot of room for continued secrecy, continued stonewalling, continued smoke screening. But to me, the most important part is that, it still hasn't caught the collective attention of the United States or the world yet, but it is gaining a lot of traction. And as we go forward, even though that legislation did not pass in its original form, there's going to be a lot of attention on UFOs from all of these institutions and individuals that what I foresee is a pretty significant transformation of not just acknowledging that there might be life elsewhere, but a fundamental transformation of how we look at reality. The sort of materialist, post-enlightenment approach to science and to just how we consider the reality around us is going to have to necessarily change once we start learning about not just the technology of the UFOs, but what they are, where they come from, why they can do things that they do, and a lot of the stuff that doesn't get talked about more commonly when people talk about UFOs, which is the effects on their consciousness, the sort of paranormal aspect, all the stuff we hear about in the Law of One, that UFOs are not just, aliens getting on spaceships and flying here from another star system. There's so much more than that, and it's going to be impossible to ignore the more enchanted aspects of reality once people become more and more familiar with the reality of UFOs. So I see a pretty significant transformation. It seems like the cat's out of the bag, the dominoes are falling, and the next, 10 to 20 years could be really, really significant. It could be a huge catalyst for us in that time period.
Yeah, thank you for your feedback. And I think it is here is a very nothing has happened in this the mainstream media about that. that I think they're still looking at US, what is going on there to start their own reporting about it. But thank you for your update, and I think we have a first questions coming in now. Aishan, you wanted to unmute your microphone and ask the question?
Yes. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all.
Mm,
Hello from India.
mm, mm.
I had a very simple question. You can just, who resonates with that answer and information, you can speak up. So it is a very fundamental question. So I just want to get in more depth into it. It is about the purpose of life and the structure of reality and the system of that reincarnation and the soul passing on to lives and lives and lives. So what is the purpose of life based on this structure of reality and what we have to do?
You address your asked question to who?
uh, I just ask like anyone who feels like resonated with that question and feels to answer can.
Okay, who is resonating with that question?
I nominate one of the beans.
I thought the same, yes.
Ishan, you said this was a simple question.
Kind of fundamental.
So obviously well, first let me offer a disclaimer and say Jim, Austin, Trish, and me are not authorities. Of course, we are being asked questions right now, but not from people looking upward at 5 human beings who have answers per se. We're just students of the law of one. So please use whatever we have to share to spark your own contemplative processes. As to the purpose of life, of course, there will be, what is the world population right now? 7 billion, 8 billion, a lot of which lives in India. There will be as many unique answers to that question as there are people. But you're asking essentially, what does the law of one say is the purpose of life? What are we doing here? Well, the biggest, broadest, deepest, most fundamental answer to that question, according to Ra and Confederation sources, is that the purpose of life is for the creator to experience itself. Prior to there being a creation, prior to there being anything manifest, before galaxies and star systems and energies and space and time and entities and Zoom and computers and us, there was just infinity. There was intelligent infinity, undifferentiated, boundless, without beginning or end. That infinity which was not born and thus can never die. Just the mystery of beingness itself. And that infinity discerned a concept, according to Ra. And that concept was, I want to know myself, essentially. So it figured out a plan for how it would go about knowing itself, which was the second distortion, the logos, the law of love. The first distortion was free will, as we know. Infinity discerned a concept, and thus the first differentiation from infinity was made. The first twist, the first modification, the first something seemingly other than undifferentiated infinity was free will. And then free will manifests or begets the logos. And the logos is sort of like, you could see it as the consciousness of the creator, the creative principle, it's called, the mind almost, which devises a plan for going about fulfilling this core desire. How will I know myself as the creator? And the logos begets light, which you could kind of liken to the body of the creator. And from those 3 primal distortions, out explodes the universe that we are currently traversing right now at a certain stage of that evolutionary progression. We are at the 3rd density level of one of the octaves of that universe that love created using light by the free will of the creator. So the biggest, largest answer is to say that the creator is experiencing itself as a tree, as Ishan, as Gary and Trish, as a star, through birth, through death, through suffering, through triumph, etc. And at this human stage, one could say that the purpose of life, according to the Confederation sources, is to make a choice. It's to use this valuable experience that we have on Earth that gives us catalyst every day, to use that catalyst to bias our consciousness in one direction or another. Will we choose service to others, which opens the heart to unconditional love for self and all beings, and seeks to respect the free will of all things, and seeks the truth of unity, of oneness? Or instead, will we choose the dark path, service to self, which seeks to close down this energy center as completely as possible, close down the heart so that love and empathy and compassion and mercy and kindness and forgiveness are not felt, and instead seeks to manipulate and enslave others for the benefit of the self? So that's kind of the large answer I would give about the purpose of life.
Very accurate answer. Not large. It's what it is. And I have a follow-up question regarding this. Like in this illusory reality, third density that we are in, it is very much, easy to forget what the purpose is. We often led astray to our desires, catalyst, and all sorts of things. So the question is the creator is the creator the focal point of my experience, or is the creator is in the grand scheme of the universe creating things, or is the creator from the vast multitude of dimensions creator is, from where am I serving the creator? Like, I can be serving it from your eyes, that I am speaking to you and catalyzing you in any sense. I can catalyzing myself. So it is like like the purpose, like that, where the purpose hits the hardest of serving the creator.
Profound philosophical inquiries for any seeker of truth. And I have been speaking at length. Austin or Jim or Trish, would you like to consider the question?
Jim? If not, I can take a shot at it.
Well, why don't you go, Ted? You haven't had much chance to talk yet.
Well, my answer won't be as in-depth as Gary's, but my answer would be the inclusive yes. That yes is the answer to all of those things, right? The creator is the focal point because everything is the creator. I'm the creator, Gary's the creator, Jim's the creator, the computer I'm looking at is the creator. You can't help but interact with the creator at all times. So, your motivations, what you seek is the creator acting this out. The people you communicate with and interact with, the catalyst you provide each other's, that very catalyst is the creator as well. You can't ever step outside of the creator. It is always happening and existing and growing. It's always present, no matter what. It's what we do with that experience that informs us how we better know ourselves as the creator, if that makes sense. That was my quick plug.
I will
you.
not push
Thank you.
harder.
Hmm?
I will not just push harder. Just like a nudge. Like, it is like still unclear. Like, where I have to perform my purpose to serve the creator. Like, where must my effort channel into? Like, uh, it is basically clear. Like, these two polarities are there, where we channel our service into the others. That is not myself, and then there is that which channels into the myself. So, like in this life that we are living, like, have you any answers to that? Where this serving to the creator goes to the most, of the time in this life.
I had difficulty understanding the words. Did you?
So you're trying to understand whenever you're in service, where does that service and that energy go?
Yes, kind of. Like if I am like my purpose is to like serve the creator. Like creator created this reality to experience himself, and I am created to add the experience to the creator. So how can I best serve the creator? Like how can I fit the design of this reality?
Maybe let me jump in here. Let me give a quote from the raw materials. There is actually no way not to serve the creator.
May I add something as well? I think
Go
there,
ahead,
there was a
Nico.
lot of, thank you, there was a lot of, perhaps I have to do this, or perhaps I have to serve in such a way. And I think that is well, if you choose to serve that way, then that's perfectly okay. But I think your first question was, what is the purpose of the creation? And Gary phrased it so beautifully. And the summary is basically that the great original thought was, who am I? And your job is to answer that question as authentically as you possibly can. And so if you decide that you want to be yourself as authentically as possible, then you're doing a perfect job at serving the creator. And then you're you. And then that's perfectly fine.
That's a very
Nice. Thanks a lot for this profound answer.
And so there is, as far as your last question is concerned, where does this all go? It goes into answering your own question, basically, because you're the creator. You have asked yourself, who am I? That's why you're here. And so all of the experiences you make, all of the decisions you make, go into answering that question for yourself and for everyone else as well.
You know, when you spoke, all things just fit into place, as it's like the creator created this reality with an intention. And it is what we are. Like I am
Aishan,
exploring myself.
let's give our other people also to chance ask
Okay.
question. You can come back later for sure, but we have other people in the line would like also have an opportunity. I will give the opportunity now to Tatiana first. Hi, Tatiana.
Hi everyone.
Mm.
A lot of people today, super happy because yeah. Actually, I wanted to make a question to Austin, or actually, it was a following question because you were talking about the UFOs, and I remember when I was a child, I have this romanticized idea from E.T., the pet that actually I want to have because it was super lovely and he was here actually to show us kind of love. But because always is a bad. But nowadays, actually, when by reading the material of the raw material, or actually, yeah, like the channeling, I kind of, and help me please to remember, because here to remember who we are. Please to remember if I'm read that kind of misunderstand it or not. But I understand somehow that actually UFOs is kind of like beings that are trying to seek kind of energy from us, because this also belong to, they are also doing their processes, and they're also like for 3 or 4 density kind of, and I don't see the point to invest a lot of energy on it because they can somehow like evolve in the process, and they're here to stuck. They are kind of stuck here, and also the government. What I understand is like they are trying just to hide this to keep us in like sadness and pressure and subordinates. And so the point here is like, like if UFOs are there, they're also beings, or they have the right to be here, and it's totally fine if we I don't know, encounter them there or not encounter them there. The good thing is like, or for me at least, is like I know that I choose to be here, and if I'm going to meet them, it will be happen because I attract everything what I create. And if it's not happening, it's also totally fine. So why to put a lot of mystery on it?
Are you asking why do they put mystery in it? Why does the government put mystery in it? Or just in general,
In
why is this?
general, like, because what I understand also does like kind of Orion beams. So if we are totally sure that we want to serve to the others and not to the self, and we talk about like UFOs and bad and oh, that's super dark, what we are doing? Come on.
Yeah, I think that's part of the entire situation as a catalyst, is how we relate to it. And when we put that kind of energy into it, that's actually a reflection on our either individual consciousness or our collective consciousness. And so the way that I view it is when the government is talking about the UFOs in a certain way, when the UFO community talks about UFOs in a certain way, there's this projection of these things that are internal to them. That's when I talk about this materialist mindset. There's a strong materialist mindset in how we talk about them. There's spaceships that come from other planets. The whole spiritual aspect is really missing. And I think the mystery that gets wrapped up in it is essentially pointing out that they're missing a big part of it. And so it's all catalyst and an exercise of self-reflection where we focus on something and then something else is going to come along and sort of hit us in the face and say, you're missing something big. And I think that's what's happening with the UFO phenomenon right now, especially in public consciousness, or at least that will happen with public consciousness, is that because there is this focus, this big sort of like mystifying it, mystery, and it allows us to project onto it certain aspects of ourselves and what we're focusing on. And through that, we learn what we're missing and what we're not focusing on. And that becomes catalyst for us. It can be very traumatic. I think there's going to be a lot of trauma that comes up when the reality of UFOs are sort of made clear, whether by the government or by just individuals or however we come to this collective truth. It's going to be traumatic and turbulent for society. And I think that is the collective catalyst, same as any individual catalyst in our lives. When we experience turbulence and when we experience trauma, there's a lesson in there for us, and it's pointing out to us things that we are missing in our perspective, things where we can grow. And I think that is why there's this mystery in it, is because people aren't self-aware about, their projections, how they're looking at it, and it's being asked to be looked at.
Okay. Okay, so just a small one. I know that a lot of people is going to ask many questions today. So each time I remember I was seeking for information for UFOs, somehow I got drained, like kind of like sad, and I was like, oh my God, like, no, I'm not going to encounter there. And since I stopped doing that, for me at least, was like, yeah, come on, you're here just to live your life. That's enough. That's enough. You don't need to seek for like some hide material because that's going to make you better. Because actually was totally the opposite. I was feeling like super sad because why they don't tell me actually the truth. And yeah, each time that I hear about the topic is like, again, this is coming. So yeah.
Yeah, just a quick reflection on that. I think that part of I had a similar experience. UFOs got me into the spiritual path, but then I kind of left it behind. The thing that I think is most interesting to me now is not the UFOs themselves. It is the fact that society and individuals will be coming to a reckoning with the spiritual nature of them. And so my focus is on the people and what we will go through as a society. The specifics about the UFOs, like you're saying, they don't, I mean, they're interesting to me, but they're not where my attention is drawn. I'm really fascinated about the fact that we are going through this collective, uh, will be going through this collective reckoning with the nature of UFOs.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Tatiana and Austin, for the answer. I think Josh have a question for Jim. Josh, you like to unmute your microphone?
Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here and good to see you all. Yeah, I've been having a lot of conversation recently with some fellow group members, and I have a question for all of LNL or whoever wants to answer. So, question is, does someone's free will preference and non-attachment to outcomes affect their polarization and karma. For example, let's say you have a couple who lives together and both are generally STO oriented people. And there comes a situation where one person wants to get a dog and the other doesn't. The one who wants the dog asks the other person if they will go out and go get a dog, and then both of them will be responsible for taking care of it. The one who doesn't want a dog stands by his free will choice, desiring not to have a dog, while also practicing non-attachment to an outcome, to outcomes. So, however, at this point in their discussion, no physical action is in motion that would create an outcome to, that hasn't occurred yet. So how does this dilemma or mental or emotional dilemma between the two people affect their karma and polarization, etc.?
A good question for the concept. Who like to answer? Jim, maybe?
Well, it would be my opinion, and it's just my opinion, I could be wrong, that the path here and in any place that there is any kind of a disagreement and the choice of a couple of different ways to go, that we need to look to what our heart has to say. And that is really why we're here. We're trying to open our hearts in unconditional love to everyone around us, if possible, to see all as the creator. So I think that meditation is probably a good way of determining what is in the heart and what you really desire to do, and taking yourself as a specific individual, maybe not as seriously as some might, and being willing to do what your heart or your intuition would tell you to do. And that, I think, would be a way of deciding whether you got the dog or you didn't get the dog. You would do that in every type of experience that you would come into. Make them conscious choices so that they carry your intention to do the mission and the intuition of the heart.
To answer your question, Josh, do you want to add something?
Thank you. I'll have to think about that. I was just curious if Gary, Austin, or Trish had anything to add for their own thoughts. If not, that's fine. Thank you.
I'll chime in for a moment. And Ishan, thank you for the previous round of questions. And I didn't see before that we could see Kiara. Hi, Kiara. And Sonia was there a minute ago. There she is. Hi, Sonia. Yeah, well, the person who doesn't want the dog is clearly in the wrong. And once we get that established, and I hope that's not you. No, it sounds like a right situation for demonstrating one's polarity, as is any point of disagreement between two or more people. If one partner is manipulative about it and just completely ignores the other person or tries to exercise some leverage or deceit or control the other person's free will in order to get the dog or in order to not get the dog, then there is opportunity to at least not polarize one's consciousness positively, even potential to incur karma. But karma, per the definition of the law of one, would involve intentional acting toward another in an unloving manner. So like attempting to be hurtful. And, marriages are petri dishes for karma to grow too. But they're also excellent laboratories for practicing forgiveness and love and dissolving karma as well. But the disagreement could also be a ripe opportunity to listen to what the partner is saying and finding compromise. And maybe through, rounds of discussion, partner A says, you know what, I see how important it is to you that we have the dog or we don't have the dog. So let's not do it. And whatever the outcome is there, it's the journey that they took to get to the outcome that will have the most bearing on the free will. And finally, the principle of being unattached to outcome is definitely a high practice of the positive polarity. It is a key way of practicing acceptance, of removing judgment from the heart. And ultimately, I think it dovetails with surrender, because to surrender is to accept whatever it is that happens. It is to put one's best foot forward, to set intentions, to head in a direction, but wherever one ends up is to say, I trust the creator. Outside, I exercise my own personal will as best as I could, but I don't control outcomes. I don't control the situation. So I surrender in trust and in acceptance to the creator.
Thank you very much. Austin, you want to add something on that?
No, actually, I think Gary's answer was beautiful.
Thank you. I think the same. So then Josh, did you any follow-up on that, or is fine?
Well, I don't want to take too much time, but I think to highlight again is I totally understand and agree with you said, Gary, and how that is the law of one and so on, Ra's teachings. But the fact that is the individuals having their free will preferences, and it's not like I flip a coin and the coin's in the air tumbling and it will be what it will be, but it's like the coin has not yet been flipped. So how could it, having faith and surrendering to the creator, like it's not outside, it hasn't happened yet. So it's by like surrendering to the creator, do you mean just giving up your free will and allowing the other one's free will to take, be the reality? Or it's like a free will thing, like where do you put your foot down and where do you appease someone else even though it's against your preference, I guess. But I'll have to re-listen to the responses on the recording. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Josh. So we have a lot of other questioners, and we go to Nico now, and after to Juan Pablo. Nico.
Yes, Danielle, thank you very much. I think we're a little bit advanced on time. So I will, out of the two questions I brought, bring forward the shorter one, or at least I hope it's the shorter one. There is a passage in the Ra Contact, this one here, in which they talk about catalysts. They do that a lot, actually, but there's one passage in particular that's very interesting. And Ra says that to a perfectly balanced entity, no catalyst or no external stimulus would carry any emotional charge and would therefore not be any sort of catalyst, because there is simply no distortion on the entity this catalyst could act on. And so the question is, if you're truly in love with everything and no external or internal stimulus, for that matter, carries an emotional charge, therefore, if all catalyst is neutral, are you then, is this the point where you're ready for reunification with your creator, because you've completely balanced yourself and there are no distortions left? Thus, have you uncovered at this point completely who you are? Have you completely answered for yourself who you are, finish the job, and then, can move on? That's not a question to anyone in particular, but if someone resonates with that and would like to speak up, I'd greatly appreciate that.
Well, you run into the problem of 4 positively oriented beings who are deferential to one another.
Service to others.
Jim or Austin or Trish?
Well, I'll give it a shot. I think you've probably got the right angle there, that if you have been able to use the catalyst that you've experienced in your life path. And it's a long process of using that catalyst and been able to balance it all. Then you've discovered that you are a 360-degree being. You're everything that the creator is. And that is knowing yourself and accepting yourself and then becoming the creator. That was a simple equation that Ross suggested. So, but it sounds simple. It's not simple. And I think that it probably would take more than one lifetime for most of us to do that. And I think that that's what we do with our pre-incarnative choices. And we look at what we've done in the previous lives and then see what is left to be done and make those choices to do that. And hopefully we become conscious spiritual seekers of truth, and we are aware of some of the information and the planning, and we carry it out and attempt to complete it. And I think that once it is complete, just as you said, then you're ready to join as one with the creator once again.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you very much. Would you move on, though? For example, if planet Earth cries out for help, would you move on?
Ross
Or would you
suggested
stay
that
back?
when that occurs, that when a person has that feeling of making contact with intelligent infinity and becoming the creator, that if you're positively oriented, your great desire is to come back and be of service to others. If you're negatively oriented, then you go on because you're selfish and you're going to go and see how much more power you can get in the fourth density.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your question, Nico. Very good. Okay, Juan Pablo, please.
Hi everyone. My name is Juan. I'm super excited to join you. This is my first time. I'm even a little bit nervous. So I wrote my question and I will try to transmit it as good as possible. So I have been reaching most of the information that I have from the Law of One by listening to a Mexican girl who tries to explain in Spanish everything that she have learned by reading the books and comparing them to other materials outside the Law of One. And she expresses, as Gary said to Ishan's question, that we are right now in the third density. However, she explains that we are currently taking the quantic jump towards the fourth density, and she even gives numbers of how long this can take. She says that in between 100 and 1,000 years, depending on several factors. And she explains that we started this quantic jump when the Mayan calendar finished in 2012. So basically, my question is if any of you can expand in this, if this information or correct or some of these assumptions or interpretations. Thank you. I would really appreciate it.
Thank you for your question. Not all in one after the other, please, Melissa.
Austin?
Yeah, I can take a swing at that one. Thank you so much, Juan. And based on your describing how she describes things, I think that for the most part, it tracks with how we understand or how I understand things. The numbers that you gave between 100 and 1,000, I'm not sure if those necessarily come from the Law of One. Ra did say up to 700 years, but they also said that that estimation cannot be accurate due to the volatilities of our peoples. But the basic gist of what you're saying is essentially how Ra described the situation, that we are currently in the end stages of third density. And sometime in the 1900s, the fourth density began to make itself present in what Ra called time space, essentially. And the Earth's transition essentially began at that point. We are in a difficult situation because the situation on planet Earth in third density is kind of holding it back. Ross says that we are the parents of fourth density, but that the delivery is not going well. And so we are sort of in this transition stage where the fourth density energies, as far as I understand them, are now fully present. It's possible that that was correlated with the Mayan calendar 2012, where we fully entered the fourth density time space. And that fourth density time space is like sort of trying to push into space-time. It's why we see so much confusion and volatility now, because a lot of the people on the planet are not ready to confront the nature of themselves that the fourth density is attempting to reveal. So we are getting more and more catalyst attempting to reveal ourselves to ourselves, and that ultimately will result, hopefully at some point, sooner rather than later, but probably later, with people coming to a realization, utilizing the catalyst, understanding their true natures, which then allows the fourth density light to manifest more and more through us, through our dedication to service to others, through the opening of our hearts, and then the earth can make its full transition into the fourth density, and we can let go of the remnants of third density that we are sort of stuck in at this point in time.
Did you answer your question, Juan, or you have any follow-up on that?
Yeah, pretty clear. Thank you very much, Austin.
Thank you, Juan.
So then I would like to go to Lynn. Look, Lynn put a question earlier in the chat. Lynn, you like to ask the question, please?
Hey, everyone. So wonderful to see you here again.
You
My
too, Lynn.
today question is indeed about the pet. My daughter is moved in with her 2 cats. And so my question is what we could do to provide our best service for the spiritual path of the pets. I think, Jim, maybe you have the most best numerous experience. How many cats do you have had so far? 18 something or 16?
17.
17.
17 that Carl and I had together. Now I have some cats left from a friend that I inherited when she passed away. So it's over 20 now.
How many did you bring into your home at the same time when you took care?
Here is our one.
No.
Oh, looks like a chocolate bar Siamese. That was we
Holy
had one of
Burma.
those.
Yeah, Holy Burma.
Siamese and Persian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as to the answer to the question, Ross suggested that pets are one of the most common ways for second density creatures or animals to evolve into the third density and to activate the spirit, because it's that feeling of love and acceptance and camaraderie and fun that you share with the pet that can activate that feeling of, connection with you. And it can become more able to feel your presence, to behave in a way that makes it feels your love and it returns your love. So that returning of the love takes what was previously a self-awareness and turns it into a self-consciousness. So that activates the spirit complex. And once the spirit complex is activated, then the process kind of takes on an energy or momentum of its own. So that this you have fun together, you play together, you feed the cat feeds you, it purrs, it sits in your lap and you pet it. And it's a lot of fun to be with a cat or a dog like that, or any animal, so that that spirit is activated and you can feel it. You can feel that presence, and it's a beautiful thing. And I've enjoyed that with a number of cats. Dandelion and Chloe are the 2 that passed away about a year and a half ago. That I had more of that feeling than I did with any other cats. They were my favorites.
Okay, which means we give more our love and to let them to trigger their love return to us. So it's also in this process they grow more self-awareness, right? This is a
right.
How can I say it's some kind of the condition make the jump from second to third, right?
Right. Yeah. They move from that simple awareness of being an animal to a self-consciousness. They're kind of differentiating themselves from the general quality of catness, you might say. They are a special cat. They are this or that name that you've given the cat, or this or that kind of cat, and they take on the spirit nature that way, and that's what lets them move into the third density after they drop their physical bodies.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for your question.
Thank you. We have now a follow-up question from Sonia about cats. And I think, Jim, you're still online now.
Okay. I'm your cat man.
Hey, it's so good to see you all.
Mhm.
I don't know if it's a silly question or not, but I have a cat who begs to be out like every day, all the time. But we live in a woodsy area. Coyotes live around here. And there are cats missing often in the neighborhood. My question is, am I infringing on Mochi's free will by keeping him indoors? Even like making that choice for him, or allowing him to go out and risking that he won't make it?
Well, that's a difficult one to answer in the way of free will being infringed upon, because you're also doing something that will help the cat live longer, because the cat doesn't know that if it goes outside, something could happen. That was the situation here with Dandelion. Dandelion was an inside outdoor cat, but we had coyotes in this area too. And so I did not let him go out at night. And that was because I wanted him to live longer. And so I think that you kind of have to make a trade-off here. I mean, you want to feed your cat all the food that it needs to eat, but you want it to be alive long enough to eat the food. So keep him alive, keep him indoors when it's dark outside, when the coyotes are out.
So it's similar to making a choice for your child to keep them safe, even though it's,
yeah, you have to, that's a good analogy. You have to realize that they don't know enough to do the right thing on their own. They could make the wrong choice, and become injured or lose their life.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That helps me a lot.
Thank you for your question, Sonia. I see before Rael wanted to ask also some question. Is he still around?
Oh no, hold on one second. No, I just wanted to answer I just want to answer Josh. I was just trying to say that, there's gonna be different answers, but we had all these animals right here, all these dogs right here, and we just knew that they needed unconditional love. You know what I'm saying? Once you start giving unconditional love, other entities come that need that unconditional love, and that was kind of the answer for us. Basically, we didn't want any other dogs, but they provide things like right now. I don't have my daughter. I got this little puppy right here. He provides the youth for me and all that good stuff, and it's just walking in faith, using it as a testament for the later testimony of the Creator, because we're gonna get some land and they're all gonna be running outside, and you guys are gonna see that too. Watch. But I love you guys. And I love to see you guys, Jim, and everybody. Thanks. It's my time to talk to you. I thank you, and I love you guys all. And peace and love, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So then would I ask Nico, you want to ask another question, because I don't have any pending in the chat at the moment.
Oh yes, happily so. Thank you. But before I do that, there is a follow-up to Juan's question. Juan, did I pronounce your name correctly? I hope I did not screw up. All right, I'm glad to hear that. Your question was, if I understood correctly, in part, whether how long third density space-time will prevail on this planet. And I think one of the upper boundary of the estimations was like 500 to 700 years. And honestly, I don't think it will take that long, because if you look at the state of things currently, there are so many hidden distortions that have never been resolved coming up now, bubbling up now. If you look at the Cold War, for example, and some of you here on the call have experienced that life more or less. I have not. I know it from history books, but it ended not because distortions had been resolved, but because people just sort of delayed it. You know, if you have an appointment in your calendar and just sort of postpone it because you don't want to deal with it, that's what happened basically. And these distortions are coming up now. Are coming up now. So it seems to me, at least. Same thing with the conflicts between various religions, shall we say, coming up now as well. So we have to deal with it basically. And if you look at the rate, the pace of change and the pace of this bubbling up of hidden and buried distortions, I don't think it will take like 500 years. We could actually make a bet, you know, is it 100, is it 200? And once we're all back in time space, can have a laugh about it and then evaluate. But honestly, I think 100 years tops. All right, and with that out of the way, my second question, let me bring it up on the other screen. All right, so where exactly do you see the boundary between balancing love and wisdom on one hand and service to self on the other? For example, when another self wishes to hurt you and allow that due to loving that other self unconditionally, then that is love that's uninformed by wisdom. I think Jesus the Christ has made a prime example for that. And this seems to suggest in some way that to let love be informed by wisdom means to establish a sort of boundary or a line in order to protect yourself and take care of yourself. So if you decide proactively, if you will, to decide to not to help another self because you know engaging in that or providing that kind of help will hurt you, is that still an active balancing of love and wisdom, or for you already like cross the boundary into the realm of the loyal opposition, service to self?
Do we want to address your question, or anyone?
I'll take a go at it. Nico, firstly, one, wonderful to see you. And two, in reply to a previous question you asked briefly, I think the perfectly balanced entity, as you describe such an entity, would be rather synonymous to, maybe even tantamount with, the total dismantling of the veil, aka enlightenment, and thus the dissolution of the individual self. How synonymous or tantamount, how close are those two things? You know, I don't know. I think it's a strong marker of spiritual maturity and seasoning, and as Ra indicated, quite rare. So you described a specific scenario in this recent question, whereby there is a desire to help somebody, but that service is withheld due to an anticipation of harm for the self if the service is offered. Is that a correct summation?
Yes.
Of the question?
And the question is that still balancing love and wisdom, or is that a service to self? Because basically the entity has put itself over the other one.
Yeah. I think like what the outcome of that equation would be highly variable. How loving is it? How wise is it? What is the balance between the two? You know, that's subject to lots of discussion. But to the fundamental that you're asking, yes, 100%. I mean, you're absolutely grappling with love and wisdom in that scenario. There's the love of service, the desire to serve, the recognition that there is a need that could potentially be met by something I have to offer. And that need isn't for myself necessarily to control the other person and manipulate them and steal their power so that I can rise up on the evolutionary ladder in the service to self sense. No, that desire to help the other is born of the heart. maybe with some judgments from the lower centers too, maybe with some ideas for what is best for that person. But it sounds like there's a listening to the need of the other person and looking within to say, I might be able to meet that need. That sounds like Greenway Ray work. So I would say, in my investigation, I would say, yes, there is love present. And then wisdom comes in, as you're saying, in this equation, when you are asking yourself, well, how might this love be used? How might love be more informed by the actual dynamics of the situation? Will this just result in or will this service that I offer just redound to my detriment, even to my, who knows, destruction? Martyrdom, as you described, was Jesus's path. But just the framing of the opportunity of service through that lens is the looking is the exercise of wisdom, I think. Should I or should I not? How much? In what intensity? At what time? Etc. Those are all the sorts of inputs, the wisdom inputs that feed into how love should be expended, how love should be given and received, etc.
That was a very beautiful answer and very profound. Thank you.
Thank you, Nico. I have also another question from Dora. Dora, you like to ask a question?
Yes. I want to know if Earth is a positively oriented planet and can only house 4D entities. Does it mean that all the babies being born now are 4D babies, or we still have some 3D babies coming in?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
Jim, you want to answer this question?
Well, I think there's a number of answers for it. I think that first of all, that everyone being born now is high on the seniority list that Ross suggested. They have the best chance of making the harvest into the fourth density. So those are, in general, the types of entities being born. I think there are, they said back in during the time of the raw contact, there were about 35,000 entities, I think, that had the dual activated bodies. And I would imagine by now there's probably a lot more with the dual activated bodies. These are entities that have come from other third density planets where they've already made the graduation. And they're coming here because they see all of the dissension and anger and frustration and separation as a great opportunity of being of service to others. For them, that's food for growth. And it's a great privilege to be able to come here early and to take part in the ascension of the entire planet and the population. So the dual activated bodies are here for that reason. And then I think also there are a number of wanderers that have come back during the raw contact. There were about 60 million or so, Ross said, that have come from the higher densities, mostly from the sixth density, in order to be of service here. They feel the problems of planet Earth are like a calling that ask them to come and lend their higher vibrations to lighten the vibrations of this planet. And then while they were here, they also have specific talents or abilities to help the people on the planet to progress. So I think there's a variety of entities being incarnated now, and that hopefully all will be successful in their life journeys and help the planet's population itself to make the harvest.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Laura. We will take one or two more questions and then we are coming to our end. I want to give Aishan the chance to ask the second question. Aishan?
My question will be, like, as we interact in these communities.
Can you close more to the microphone? Yeah.
Okay. So as we interact in this community,
I can discern the energy we transfer green ray and blue ray, like love and wisdom. But I cannot, see because I do not use that indigo ray objectively. So what would be that indigo energy transfer feel like if I interact from, energy transfer happen from the indigo ray while interacting? That is of the transformation and transmutation.
To who you address your question? You want to any particular person answer your question?
Jim or Austin?
So if I understand the question is basically what does indigo ray energy transfer, how would that feel? Because you can imagine green ray and blue ray. It's hard to imagine what an indigo ray transfer would feel like. I would defer to Jim for that question. I think that he would have a more insight than me.
I'm assuming that you're talking about sexual energy transfer.
I'm talking about the interaction as we are having in this community. That may be any kind of social interaction or maybe kind of direct or indirect interaction. That may also include sexual interaction. So the green ray is of love, blue ray is of wisdom, and indigo ray is of transformation and transmutation. So what are the characteristics, or what would it feel like? What would be the experience of that indigo ray energy transfer that would happen between two entities?
Well, I can only speak about when Carl and I had sexual energy transfers before the raw contact. We discovered that that was the way that the vital energy for her would be enhanced during the contact, so the contact would be longer. Now, we both dedicated the lovemaking or the sexual energy transfer to the service of the creator. So that was something that would enhance the amount of energy that was transferred. As to what the feeling was, since my indigo ray had been activated since 1972, it was like an orgasm in my brain. Does that answer your question?
Kind of, but I would like to go more deep, maybe from the contact material.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand that.
Can you
Did that
please
answer you?
can you go closer to the microphone? You are hardly here.
I would go deeper, maybe from the raw contact material, because I am hoping to get more into like social interactions as we are having. The channelings that we have with Hathon and all others. So these are also because we humans we are still on this 4D, and most interact on the level of 5D, and love, light, wisdom, and at most these. So like as the rise 6 density being, he may he knows how to objectively use the indigo ray, as he also created the pyramids. So like you also have that expertise in law of one, as a student of law of one. So I would just get to know your perspective on that.
Well, if I understand your question correctly, the indigo ray is also the ray of the intelligent energy that can be activated so that the spirit moves into intelligent infinity. That contact is made with intelligent infinity, so that when Ra was being able to create the pyramids by using thought, they were asking the intelligence in the stone to respond to their request to take a certain shape, so that the transfer of energy from the beings known as Ra to the stone was a transfer that created what we would see as a material object, and that would become the pyramid. It was created all at once and would function in a manner of, well, in the various chambers, initiation, healing, and in the resonating chamber facing the self, so that you would be a new and risen being when the experience of not being able to move forward in your life path. It looked like you were having to accept the death of the body, and then you were a new and risen being. So in general, that was the type of transfer of energy that was possible through the pyramid that was created by Ra out of intelligent infinity and the creator within each stone. Does that answer your question?
Quite to extent. Thank you a lot.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much, Aishan. So we're coming to the end of our session now. For me, it was the most beautiful, the most interesting session this year because we had never had it in this constellation. And I would like to ask the people of LR Research to have each of one some closing words. Maybe we start with Austin today.
I think my primary closing words would be just pure gratitude for you, Daniel, for holding this space and bringing this group together and for keeping it going with such loving spirit. It's really inspirational to see groups like this meeting. There's others that meet regularly as well. And it's such a great service, I think. So thank you, Daniel, and thank you for inviting us to join you in this space. It's really such an honor to be here with you all and to see all of your faces and to discuss the Law of One. And just, I'd like to reiterate something that Gary said at the beginning that, we may be in a unique position. We are, have this privilege of being able to work with the Law of One on a daily basis and study it in a very intense way. But we are, like Carla used to say, just bozos on the bus. So just take everything we say as fellow bozos.
Thank you very much, Austin. And what I also love to see is that our community is growing internationally. So today we have people from US, Europe, Africa, India. That is very great. It's not Law of One Europe anymore. It's Law of One International. So, but I love that to see that. So maybe we go to Trisha.
Just to piggyback off of Austin, I feel so much gratitude, Daniel, for you putting this together and every single one of you for being here. Oh, sorry, my dog is barking. Thanks. When we have these gatherings, these virtual gatherings like this, I feel like I walk away with more to contemplate and think about and meditate on than I did when I came in. So I'm super appreciative that people come with their questions because then I'm realizing that, oh, I've got more to explore myself. So I'm so thankful for everything. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Trisha. Gary, you would like to follow?
Yeah, that reminds me that on the spiritual quest, the questions tend to be more important than the answers. And it's really important to relate to one's catalyst and one's life with questions. I mean, to engage in that process of asking yourself, what's happening? What am I feeling? Where am I in my body right now? What do I think about this, etc.? Because if I examine myself, I find that I just get stuck in mental loops that aren't asking questions. There's a voice up here, so to speak, that's just monologuing, just talking. But when I stop that momentum and turn within to ask myself questions, then that's when real insight is born. And anyway, I was thinking, you said closing remarks, and so I got to thinking about the Law of One, and I was reminded that the Law of One isn't necessarily about the universe outside of you, about, how it was designed and what its purpose is and what its overarching structure is and the potentials of the illusion for spiritual evolution. It's all those things too, but at heart, it's about you. Literally, it's about the deepest, most fundamental essence of who and what you are. The Law of One isn't some abstract happy ending at the end of a long trail. It's your deepest, most essential self. It's us too. It's not just you as an individual, it's us. And therein it is a reminder about and testimony of who we are, which is always who we are. Even if we are temporarily identified with this role upon the stage, we are never not the creator. We have never left the creator because one can't leave the creator. One can't get outside of the creator. It's just an illusion of light and shadow that tells us otherwise. So the law of one reminds us that we can't gain the creator any more than we could gain our feet. It's rather a process of releasing the illusion to discover who and what we already are, who we are right now and always will be, releasing the camouflage. And that's why Ra calls the journey a process of distortion falling away, they say. And love and acceptance is the road for that falling away. And otherwise, like Austin and Trish said, so grateful to be with other Law of One seekers. Thank you for taking us away from the computer with just text on the screen to kind of interact with human energies. It's so uplifting and inspiring. And Daniel, thank you for the service. And I heard from other seekers that that you issue like daily, I think, quotes via your Telegram group, Raw Quotes and Quote Quotes. And it's a morning cup of caffeine, of spiritual caffeine, I've heard from other seekers. So thank you for your steadfastness and service. And thanks, everybody. So good to see you all. And Ragnar, I see you there. Hello, my friend, brother.
Thank you very much, Gary. Yes, I will later also post a recording of this call on the group of a Telegram group, Law of One Europe. You will find the link to the group you can find off the homepage of Research and also on the YouTube channel for sure, Law of One Europe. So, last but not least, final words from Jim.
Well, Danielle, I also want to thank you for getting this group together, for doing it periodically, so that the family that we create while we talk about the Law of One, the questions and answers, can be expanded, and that we can all become a facet in the family through the various questions and answers. And as Gary said, the questions are really the important thing. Answers take you only so far, but questions can keep you going a lot further in this journey we're taking. So thank everybody for your questions, and I look forward to our next gathering. I hope all goes well for you for the Christmas season and the New Year of Joy, and look forward to seeing you all again.
Thank you very much. And yes, I want also to thank all the participants worldwide which joined our call today. So just remains to wish everybody Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year in advance. And I thank everybody, especially also people from Research, to give us the opportunity to ask the question. Yes, have a good time. And thank you very much, everybody, for being with us today. Thank you very much.
Love you all. Thank you.
Thank you,
Love you all.
Daniel.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And Austin, could I give you a call afterward?
Yes. I got my phone. Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody. Bye. Bye.
Love
Bye,
you
and
all.
thank you very much.
Thank you.